Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's kick it off with a tale of corporate mix-ups, a well-timed email, and a mic drop that had even the CEO applauding. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like if you enjoy the content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a juicy story. Try to threaten me over a $26 expense report? I'll make sure everyone knows. I worked for 8 years at one of the largest advertising companies in the world. Moved up to middle management, but built a lot of relationships with very high execs, C-suite, regional presidents, etc., due to my specialty and reputation. Left in November of 2022 for my dream job. Left on good terms, turned everything in, followed all procedure and exit interview, including cutting up my corporate Amex as instructed, working virtually. My company was to cancel the card. Fast forward to this week, I get a nastygram email to my personal email from the guy who runs all corporate Amex for old company. Your Amex ending in number is 68 days past due in the amount of $25.95 and needs to be paid ASAP or face the consequences. We will not pay late charges. This is your responsibility. CC'd in the email were a number of mid-level finance folks. I laughed and then spent an hour crafting a snarky response to all and added in the chief people's officer, the CFO, the regional president of the Americas, and the global CEO. BCC a couple of folks still at the company who'd get a kick out of it. I know my email would get through as I stay in touch with all. Essentially, not my problem, should have canceled it. It's fraud on Lyft. I haven't traveled to where the Lyft ride is for years. Did someone check to see why no activity for almost a year, then boom, charge? Did HR read the email and say, oh crap, he left? Nope. So, over $25.95, I know all involved read it, including the CEO, as all respond with either disregard, hope you're well, etc. The CEO simply responded, well played. At the rate these people bill out, it's advertising, everyone has a billable rate. I'm guessing it cost them $1,000 to read and respond. The kicker, catching up with the regional president over email, I made a sale for the company I'm currently at. Winner! Better than petty revenge. This qualifies as pro-level revenge, so you CC'd every frickin' one. And you made a sale. Bonus. And our second story. How my dad destroyed a Karen at the grocery store. So this story takes place about 6 years ago while I was working at a grocery store in my small town. At this grocery store, we have a side exit/entrance and a restricted back area only meant for employees. We're meant to call police for trespassing if we see someone back there, but I never did because I thought it was wrong to screw up somebody's day for no reason. Right by the back exit was the road to my house, and my dad had driven my mom to work that day and was on his way back home with my mother in the passenger seat. Now, my dad isn't a big guy, but he's a scary guy. He may be only 5'10", but he's built like a cage fighter and works out daily. Gun to my head, the only reason why I could think of for my father to want to stay in shape is because he works in construction. I really don't know why he works out so hard. But anyways, while my father was driving down the road, he saw this 12-year-old round little turd of a boy proceed to slap a little 10-year-old girl across the face at the back of the store. So my dad slams on the brakes and immediately gets out of the car and yells at the kid how it's not right to put your hands on a woman and that the kid should leave now. Should be the end of the story, right? Lesson learned, everything set right in a way. We all know it isn't over. Come on. The kid clearly wasn't used to getting yelled at or told he wasn't allowed to do something because this part I was there for and heard. Me and my boss were outside taking care of trash and whatnot when we hear a blubbering, prepubescent screech of, F you! Stay the F away from me, B-word! I effing hate you! So my boss comes over to the screeching and sees the brat marching through the side exit, so my boss approached him and said, Hey, you can't be screaming here, that isn't allowed. As the fat sack of crap marched past us and pointed back, screeching again, It's 'cause he's a effing a-hole! That's when we see a man walking down the alley and my boss leans over to me asking, Isn't that your dad? All I could muster in response was, God, I hope not, which followed seconds after with my dad calling out, Hey, buddy, to me. So my dad brought us up to speed and we all figured that was the end. Nope. Me and my boss go back into the store and we hear what sounds like whale mating sounds. We see at the service center, laying down on his back on the floor and throwing a temper tantrum, the brat. My boss immediately brings people up to speed on what happened, and all sympathy dries up for him immediately after. My boss informs the kid that he's not allowed in the back of the store anymore, and that if his parents don't come and get him now, that the police will be called. So the turd pulls out his cell phone and calls his mom, and I head back to do my job. I, like an idiot, thought it was over. The entitled Karen of a mother shows up and is picture-perfect Karen. Haircut and attitude honed to perfection. She immediately gets out of the car and walks over to her filthy little crotch spawn and says, "Oh, sweetheart, who made you cry?" My dad, apparently too entertained to leave or something, pipes up before the kid, "Yeah, I did that." He brings the entitled mother up to speed on what happened and how her son hit a little girl. She scoffs and goes, "That gives you no right to try and parent my child, even if he was misbehaving. That's a job for the parent, not you." My dad, already fully grasping the type of person he was dealing with, responded with, "Yeah, well, you weren't around and I wasn't about to let a little kid hit another for no reason." She got offended by this, screaming in response, "I'm sorry, I was busy being a good mom at home and making my kid dinner. You a-hole. You have no right to parent my kid." My dad, acting like he just understood, goes, "Oh, I get it. He's just copying what he sees at home. Clearly, your husband must smack the snot out of you if you think it was okay for him to be beating up on little girls." Karen didn't like that response and said, "I'm going to go get my husband. He's 6'4" and going to kick your butt." My dad actually laughed at this and said, "Go ahead and F him, bring him, B-word. I'll snap him off at the kneecaps and beat him with his legs." It was about then Karen realized she had lost, loaded her spawn and his bike into her minivan and drove off. She ended up coming back with her husband later, and my dad actively ate candy and laughed in his face about the skid mark his jeans created. The man never touched my dad, possibly due to the police station that the grocery store's parking lot actively touched. The Karen, her husband, and her kid were all banned from the store, and my manager bought my dad a box of candy. And let's not forget, some little girl internalized that it's not okay to be smacked. And our last story. Suspicious neighbor and parking wars. We're currently renting a 3-bedroom townhouse with tandem parking in the driveway, and we also park one extra car on the street overnight. Street parking can get crowded, especially with a large condo complex nearby, but we've always managed to make it work until recently. When we first moved in, there was this large, heavy-duty pickup with an enclosed trailer that frequently parked in front of our place. We figured it belonged to a contractor or someone working nearby, and for the first year it was manageable. He usually parked further back, letting us squeeze in front of our own house, even if it was a bit close to our driveway. We knew street parking was first come, first served, so we made do. Things only started to get tense when someone called bylaw on him, leaving his trailer unhitched on the street for days. But the real escalation began last month, when a nearby condo closed its parkade for cleaning on a weekday. That day, street parking was a nightmare, with all the condo residents taking over the 2-block radius. My mother-in-law, needing a place to park, decided to use the spot in front of his house since he was always parked in front of ours. When she returned to her car, he was waiting for her, and things got ugly fast. He grabbed her car door and started yelling, "How dare you? This is my house. You can't park here." She calmly replied, "Well, I'd like to park in front of our residence, but you're always parked there." His response, "You guys rent, you don't even own," as if that had anything to do with it. She told him to let go of her door because she needed to get to work and didn't want to argue. She managed to close the door and drive off, but not before he threw something at her car and yelled, "F off!" Shaken by the encounter, we advised her to call the non-emergency line, but they weren't much help. They just told her to call bylaw unless she caught him doing something illegal. The next day, she was understandably nervous and chose a different parking spot. But sure enough, he approached her again. This time, she firmly told him, "Go away. I don't want to talk to you." He tossed a sack of papers through her window, saying, "The neighbors think you should read this." Freaked out, she threw the papers onto the street and drove off, calling the non-emergency line again. They reluctantly said they'd send someone to talk to him, but we're not sure if anyone actually did. From our house, large cedars block our view, so we couldn't see if any officers showed up. Things seemed to settle down for about 2 weeks. He moved his cars and trucks, and we didn't see much of him until this past weekend. That's when I started looking into this guy. Turns out he's an 83-year-old retired landscaper with a fleet of vehicles, an old Ford pickup that's leaking oil, a flatbed trailer, a van, an SUV, and a sedan. In total, he needs space for 7 vehicles. He does yard work for low-income seniors, and when they pass away, they sometimes leave him their belongings, which explains the random assortment of cars in the downtown area. And before you think, oh, that's so nice of him, let me tell you the rest of the story. He has a crowded driveway but doesn't use it for parking. Instead, it's filled with old furniture piled in front of his garage and yard. He could easily park 2 cars there but chooses not to. And then there's the darker side of his history. He's had a questionable past, having been charged in Saskatchewan at 25 with 2 15-year-olds resigning from a position in Alberta when a parent found his relationship with a student suspicious, and finally being caught in BC after parents discovered his history when he was hired as a grade 5-6 teacher in Glen Rosa. This was all years ago, back in 1989, and in theory, he served his time. This week, the parking war reignited. My wife took his preferred street parking spot for his truck and trailer over the weekend, and he responded by blocking her in. We finally called bylaw, and they ticketed the heavy-duty pickup for being too close to the intersection, but this guy won't let go. As soon as she left for work on Monday, he parked his SUV and truck in a way that blocked off large sections of the street, ensuring no one else could park. Even though another car could easily fit, he's using his smaller vehicles to hold larger stretches of the street for his 2 trucks with trailers. So as of Monday, he's effectively taken over the entire street from the corner to our driveway using his large white pickup and a smaller car that he moves around early in the morning and late at night. Fed up with the situation and his increasingly hostile behavior, we decided enough was enough. We called the police, explaining everything that's been going on, from the parking issues to his aggressive confrontations with my mother-in-law. We're hoping they can step in and put a stop to this once and for all. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.